It's Happening show, community grassroots media for the people, by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
And I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
Tonight.
That was the most pleasant way I've ever said that.
My hair's making an appearance. All right, that's it.
Woo!
It's Happening is a movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, then elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. Happening in every which way.
It's Happening is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be. The future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight.
Fight back.
Yeah. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. So we thank you. Because of you, it's happening.
Woo!
Get it.
It's hard. I'll come back to the studio one day and it'll actually be synchronized.
I know. Yeah, that's really what it is. Like, our cadence is off because you're not here and we don't get to look at each other and kind of just wink at each other.
It is my fault.
Go. All right.
COVID is happening. Well, come on. That has to be a super spreading activity, yelling "It's happening" like that. So it's especially dangerous. So
yeah.
So, speaking of dangerous, what a shitty fucking week,
dude. Just so bad in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an earthquake, and on the same day that there was a blackout in Santa Ana, so that was a trip. First, the lights go off at 10:30, and then you hear all the kids running around in the streets.
Yeah.
Oh, mijito, come inside. and then there's an earthquake, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later.
How many plagues will there be? It just sounds, this is the next round, what I'm saying?
Done.
Yeah, can we?
Done 2020.
Done with
I'm out.
Yeah.
Mother sucker.
And we'll get to some of the other things, but
we will. Yeah, but needless to say, that happened. Lakers won last night. That was fun. With a buzzer beater at the end.
Woo! Were you you're hugging Ben and stuff? Love you.
Yeah, no, not really, but I was jumping up and down. It's pretty his Mamba moment. Yeah, so that was exciting.
Yeah.
And this is our last show celebrating our 6-year anniversary. Because is there one more? No, there's one more Monday in September, right? September is our 6-year anniversary month. Yeah, or yearly anniversary.
That's crazy.
I
6
remember
years.
you didn't.
God,
Yeah, 6 years. 6
That's
years
amazing.
of savagery and happening.
Oh yeah, of happening. Yes. Yeah, and after 6 years, I'm still nervous doing the show. You got to keep the fear alive. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to keep me on my toes. So,
No doubt.
God bless us.
Last emotional check-in story is that
Emotional.
emotional check-in. It's my birthday tomorrow.
It's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
I sent all gifts to. Thank you.
Woo.
Yeah. The end.
Seriously though, if you love me,
if you love me, we'll show it financially.
yeah, on a dollar amount, and you'll be rated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
you better add some zeros to that.
and you know they say love can't buy you happiness, but they could buy Jose happiness. So think of they never considered that scenario.
Yeah, it'll be like rated and like half smile. No, or like small smile, like
or
or like big smile with no teeth.
Oh,
or
that's my go-to. Yeah. Oh my god.
Or big smile and teeth. Or yeah. Or like big smile, teeth, and like closing my eyes
and going insane slightly. Yeah. Going so happy you've lost some mental stability.
Just kidding, but yeah.
Woo!
That's, every year gets less fun, more gray hairs. Yeah, less of a hairline. It happens.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my widow's peaks.
Yeah.
So I need to get them flared out. Actually, I want to highlight them.
Yeah, that's them cul-de-sacs. Yeah. So we're gonna get into our quick stories, but later on we're gonna have Matthew Mariscal joining us. Local activist homie. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to that conversation. Go ahead and go into our quick stories.
Quick stories.
Known as headlines.
Also known as top stories and headlines. We have I don't know why do we have so many news segments. It doesn't make sense. The news only takes 10 minutes. Okay, sorry.
These are half important. Or no, these are pretty important.
It better be important. The next one I'm going to say. God, that's disrespectful.
This is true. This is a quick story / top story.
Important stories.
The most heartbreaking story we've heard this week.
Yes, indeed. And that being the one you've all heard of already, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg indeed has died. Suddenly. I mean, it's kind of of all the things that needed to happen in 2020, this is one of those other plagues that swept across the land. So now the question is pretty much, are the Republicans going to swoop in and get that nomination before the election? And they're going to try their damnedest. And I mean, I'd bet someone 50, and if anyone wants to bet me $50 that the Republicans will get the nomination, or I mean that they'll get the nomination before the election, I'll take that bet. I think they'll try. They'll do it. And we'll see if the Democrats can fight back.
Fight back. Yeah. So there is, first of all, I mean, when I first heard the story, I was just in shock. I was like, no. I think the day before or 2 days before, I posted this long-winded post that all of my top friends liked, where I basically said how important it is to have Trump lose, which is to say, to elect Biden, because of the Supreme Court, and because I felt she was on her last leg. I mean,
right.
She had recently, been hospitalized, and every time she broke her hip or was in the hospital or missed dates, you always feels like the inevitable was coming, and sadly it came. And so, thoughts and prayers, obviously, with her family, and and honestly, frankly, all the women that really just took this especially hard, because Roe versus Wade is legitimately endangered now. With the potential ultra conservative, far right leaning judge that will more than likely, or actually absolutely, be one that will be against abortion. So a lot is at stake for this, as if things weren't already intense enough.
Oh yeah, big time. So the nation's reeling from that, and man, it's gonna be a fight over that, but that will unfold very quickly. But yeah, and I mean, she has a legacy, and she had a long, productive life pushing a positive agenda, and God bless her for it. But the circumstances we were finding ourselves, it's pretty wild stuff here.
It is.
Oh yeah. And speaking of more wild stuff,
more wild things. Stack the courts. That's all I'll say about that. Their two choices are to get 4 senators, Republican senators, to vote against the nomination, or they can just take the L and stack the courts, get 3 more judges. If Biden were to win, so we'll see, man. This is crazy.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be other crazy news. Oh yeah, the Department of Justice has designated New York City as an anarchist jurisdiction. And I was looking at it, I'm like, really? I'm like, sign me up. No, but I mean, of course, they mean something else by that. In their definition, it is one of the places that, including Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, that have permitted violence and destruction of property to persist and have refused to undertake reasonable measures to counteract criminal activities, which led to the Department of Justice calling them anarchist jurisdictions, in that they're promoting anarchy, meaning pure chaos. So, and this is a designation that the federal government and Trump's going to use to try to prevent giving funding to different cities. It seems like largely based on their political. This seems like it's falling along political lines, maybe more than anything. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I didn't know there were so many large anarchist cities in the United States. So interesting.
It's just, yeah, it was absolutely. It is. I mean, it's obviously this whole narrative. Trump recently also said that for some reason COVID-19 cases are higher in Democratic run states, right? So he's also blaming the fires, the conspiracy theories that that
on anarchists,
leftist anarchists planting their own fires, for whatever reason. And Joe Rogan actually had to apologize for that, the dummy, for spreading those things. Like kudos to him for taking back something that was clearly fake news or factually incorrect.
Right.
But yeah, so this situation is all sorts of wacky, man.
Oh
yeah.
Crazy.
So and because the reality is the number of like domestic terrorists, like individuals that have been like researched and followed, or like the incidents have been from right-leaning militias and vigilante groups that are popping up like crazy, or just coming out of the woodwork. They were always out there. But but anarchists, like plots, and this is just all bunch of like these things that Trump wants to, and the right wants to say, like these are communists, these are anarchists, these are Marxists, and I'm like, people on the left that might be like far left leaning, like they don't identify themselves as these things.
Not often.
Not often. Like
no.
Marxism is kind of like
it's pretty specific.
Political calculus. Like it's pretty heavy stuff. You don't just call yourself willy-nilly a Marxist, and not very many people do. But, and definitely not as much as Trump would like to, and the right like to believe.
These Marxist cities.
Yeah, but it's just stupid. So I'm sure the states are going to sue.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that at least anarchists are getting smeared a bit more than just the communists and the Marxists. They always get all the attention as far as being smeared by the right. Yeah, let's get a little hate in for the anarchists. I think it's been overdue.
Yeah, man. No, it's crazy. It really is absurd in so many freaking ways.
Oh yeah.
But they're going to continue to lie. Trump's like, I think that they're socialists, but they're also communists. He literally said that today in his rally
Mhm.
with all the people with the MAGA things. Just, anyways, next story.
Next story.
Egyptian tomb in Saqqara necropolis found to contain huge cache of sealed sarcophagi. Sarcophagi?
Oh yeah, you're a sarcophagus guy.
What if it's a sarcophagus girl? Like,
Yeah, please.
Tag.
In Latin.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to say nothing. Archaeologists in Egypt have discovered almost 30 sarcophagi, which is the plural for sarcophagus, believed to have been buried for around 2,500 years, according to the country's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, according to CNN. A cache of closed coffins was unearthed from a 11-meter deep burial shaft in Saqqara, south of Cairo. So this is, so this is what is being discovered is one of the most consequential discoveries in the last century, as far as the amount of sarcophagi and artifacts that they were able to collect from these. So I thought this was good.
Oh yeah. I think it's definitely stirred a public interest such that I think Brendan Fraser's going to come back and make another mummy film. That's how much it has stirred the consciousness of the American people. No, but seriously, I do hope that there's an ancient alien in one of these sarcophagi that we've all been waiting for. The ancient alien that's in one of these things.
Yeah, I'm sure. Me too.
You're just like, please.
Yeah. So apparently, some of the coffins have retained some of their original colors, so you can Google it or I could share the link so folks can check it out. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. Little figurines and stuff.
Yeah, but the color palettes they choose, I mean, they're so dated. Sorry, I have to apologize to my audience for these kinds of comments. Yeah. Sorry about that.
There's, their style choices did not age well. I must say, yeah. Get together, ancient Egypt.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Okay, well, we have more news for you folks.
Real news.
Oh yeah, that's right. Segue straight into the next damn story. Yes. Okay. We're going back to school. Orange County kids are facing a strange situation where many of the districts are having kids just go back. When Orange County tends to hover under the line where it's appropriate, so we can get waivers and stuff. So districts have been pushing that, right? But oh man, it doesn't look good, man. I mean, I don't frankly even, I get it. I guess I do understand it. Like, it's hard for to have the entire student population at home. They can't be doing the kinds of hours they used to just on the computer. Not everyone's suited for that. I mean, I would have been on my computer anyway, but not everyone's like an introvert that can just get sucked into a screen and just sit there for 8 hours straight, So I get that that's a problem. Students would be having less education, but it's like, what's the trade-off here, man? Because isn't this going to spark another, there's a lot of questions regarding how they're going to handle it if there is an outbreak, because there's not they don't explicitly have any contract tracing plans. They said, the health agency is going to provide a lot of nurses. They couldn't say how much, and they couldn't even say what the criteria would be that they would have to shut down a school. They just really briefly outlined that anyone that had symptoms would stay home for and isolate for 10 days. But it's it's dangerous. I'm scared for the teachers, not only because they're kind of teaching classes for the first time again via Zoom. You have to figure out how your curriculum works again online and with even in the smaller time format, right? So
right.
Yeah, it's all crazy.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely just not in the safest of situation. I mean, the CDC just came out right in the past few days that finally acknowledging what a lot of experts were saying, and it's just kind of crazy to me that it took this long to finally confirm that that droplets, from singing, talking,
mm-hmm.
Yelling, breathing, everything.
Yeah.
It can release airborne particles that contain the virus, and when inhaled or in other ways, could enter into your system, then you can contract them. So they did a study of acquired that had one individual, who I believe was asymptomatic, had the virus, and they all basically, and we're all in an enclosed room singing. So this guy is launching all of his WAP, his wet ass pronunciations.
Oh,
Boom. That's
don't be flaunting that right now.
Yeah, watch your WAP, everyone.
Yeah, that's
wet
one
pronunciations.
I can get behind. This kind of.
Bye, baby, on the tree.
Yeah, it makes sense though, right? Because like coronavirus is a variation on coronavirus. We've seen before, right? Except this one just seems like it spreads a lot faster. It's more resilient. It's sticking around, and makes sense. It's airborne. It isn't like these other ones.
And in the absence of having, masks, the cloth masks, they don't work. The plastic ones, they do not work. So there's things that work, and then there's things that make you feel like they work, but they don't. Which kind of gives credence to some people that say like, oh, you're a sheeple, like the mask don't work. Like what works the best is the N95 mask for sure. Protects you from inhaling, the virus, and protects other people in the case of your droplets. So then that's and the next best thing would be the surgical mask, right? The ones that doctors wear when they're performing surgery. Obviously, that keeps from bacteria and everything. But this this just kind of is a situation where it's ripe for disaster, right? Or and folks, especially teachers, are feeling like they're guinea pigs.
So scary situation. And I think they've done a good job at providing hotspots and Chromebooks for students. They've done a massive effort on getting these out. But I feel like maybe even if we had better public infrastructure and access to internet and computers before this, it wouldn't have been such a bad transition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And last thing on that, apparently the CDC updated it to include the virus can be spread airborne, but then they took it down. And when asked why they took it down, they said, "Oh well, we're just updating it." Yes.
That's kind of odd.
Conspiracy corner.
Conspiracy. Getting the test gives you it. Okay, sorry. I'll leave that to other guests.
Mike, don't get the vaccine. Microchips will be inserted into your brain. And last story before our awesome guest here tonight. We got, according to Orange County, LA Times, Orange County survey shows desire for investment in public health, social services over law enforcement, report says, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like the People's Budget Orange County Coalition.
Yeah, so that they were able to collect that based on 1,000 residents that were surveyed. So this coalition is made up of ACLU of Southern California, Housing as a Human Right OC, Chispa, and the Orange County Equality Coalition, among others. So according to Pat Davis, who I believe has been on the show before. If not, she's definitely a friend of the show. Shout out to Pat Davis. People out in Anaheim. Orange County's leadership has for many budget cycles denied the very existence of our most diverse communities and their needs while building wealth on the backs of that very workforce. So county spokeswoman declined to comment, of course. Supervisors, So yeah, the findings of the report are in line with the nationwide movement to defund police and reinvest in community programs. But who pays attention to the people?
No.
People could want Medicare for all overwhelmingly, but that doesn't mean politicians are going to listen to the people.
Yeah,
definitely,
probably not.
When it comes to our congressman in this local area, who rhymes with
don't even start.
First name starts with Boo. Yeah,
Boo. Boo-rea.
All right, and so yeah, so that Davis goes on to say, adopting a people's budget will be the first step towards creating an infrastructure and safe social safety net that has long been lacking. It will change lives and build stronger, more inclusive systems to address the unmet needs of many. And with that, the conversation that will be relevant for our awesome guest here tonight is, to big government and to small government? That is the question. And in the minds of many libertarians, the answer to that is small, and as small can get. So I want to bring onto the show, if you can go ahead and show your video and unmute yourself, Matthew Mariscal, who's a local activist and unabashed and proud libertarian, who's endorsing Jo Jorgensen.
Jo Jorgensen, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Dang, we're starting off on the wrong foot.
What's going on?
Yeah. Nothing, man. We're just chilling. Thank you so much for being on the show, Matt.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for having me on. Shoot.
Yeah. We're gonna have a cool convo / debate, and we'll give you a chance to definitely share what maybe a lot of people don't.
I'm gonna clear the misconception. That's what I'm gonna
do. We'll do that. So, but first of all, so the Bloods and Crips, the Blues and the Reds, over here on, that we're over here fighting, and but y'all, Libertarian Party has been around for a cool minute with, Ron Paul and
73, I think, 74,
and other folks before then. But yeah, I want to hear first of all a little bit about how you got involved in politics, and then maybe can share what it means to be a libertarian and the libertarian philosophy.
Yeah, well, I got in politics probably because of two main reasons. And one was my dad, rest in peace. Since I was young, he was always very informed. He was very well informed, despite, what he was going through in his life. And he one day I'm not going to lie, we were conspiracy theorists like crazy. I was in like the 4th grade and we were going crazy with, all that stuff. But one day he's like, hey, look, there's this guy running for president and he's just different. He's not like the rest of these politicians. And his name was Ron Paul. So I Googled Ron Paul. My dad was always the type, don't believe me, do your own research. Google's right there. Google's your best friend. You know what I'm saying? So I Googled Ron Paul one day and I'm on YouTube, and it leads me to YouTube, and I watch the debate. I think it was the 2008 presidential debate. And he was debating John McCain and about foreign policy. And he was just talking about the idea of non-interventionism, and it just completely resonated with me. So I'm like, let me look more into this man's views before I really like hop on, you know what I'm saying? And see what form my beliefs. And I was young, at this time I was probably in like the 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. And I started searching and just hearing him speak, and then listening to other libertarians. And that's what really drove my initial interest in politics. But I was never really interested in getting involved. I mean, I was young, so I didn't really think about it, to be honest. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school. And it's kind of funny because the man that really just lit away from me, I don't know, just totally lit away from me. It's so hard to describe, but he's the complete opposite on the political spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So I had this class called Ethnic Studies and Lower High School. And shout out to my teacher, now professor at Cal State LA. Congratulations to him. But Paulo McAllis, Dr. Paulo McAllis, he just totally sent me, I don't know, like, so you hear about that idea of like how there's either Tupac or Nipsey Hussle or anybody, these leaders that light that, that light in your head that really just like make you go, hold on, like this is something worth listening to. This is something worth working for. And he just helped me get involved. He showed me the way, and he never, for being somebody that is almost on the complete opposite side of the political spectrum, he never shut me down. He always encouraged me to raise my voice because I had a different belief in things than a lot of our classmates did. And he really, that man really, changed my life. I probably wouldn't have been in politics at all if I hadn't met him. So shout out to him. But yeah, that's really how I got involved into the political side of like the thinking side, like the philosophy behind it. And then the action side was because of Dr. McAllis.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And maybe you can elaborate on the philosophy a little bit. Maybe can you give your version of what do you see the basic tenets of libertarianism?
I would say libertarianism is basically you allow people to live their lives however they want, I'll live my life however I want. The only rule is you can't take my stuff and you can't infringe on my rights. So whether that be like my right to life, so you can't hurt me, you can't kill me, I can't kill you, I can't take your stuff. It's basically, we believe in, it comes down to one principle, and it's called the non-aggression principle, which means I'm not allowed to aggress against anybody for any reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, you know, so we hear a lot from, like, say, I watched some interviews with some of our libertarian candidates, and they often offer solutions to a lot of the problems as like, well, I mean, and you know, I don't disagree with a lot of them, but they're saying, yeah, the big government's screwing up here, like it's corrupt. We can't have a fair, whatever they're doing, as long as big government is intervening. So they always say, well, we'd tailor it back, like we'd bring it back. But what I was always wondering, I was questioning, is like, where's the baseline? I mean, are you gonna have a federal government? Do you have, like, what would the government look like? Because I understand there's a lot of things they shouldn't do, but what ought they do, I guess, is the question. Would there even be one?
Yeah, I think if you're a libertarian, you do believe there is some purpose of government. So for instance, like I said earlier, like the purpose of government would really be to, if you take my life or something like that, you breach a contract with me, something like that. And it's definitely debated. Libertarians are so broad, it's crazy. You know, that's why there's so much infighting. There's so much infighting in the Libertarian Party and just the movement, because we can't agree on anything. You know what I'm saying? And but that is tough because, you know, like I said, libertarians don't agree on anything. You have a candidate saying this, and the entire Libertarian Party, or libertarians that are not even a part of the party, completely, you know, shun it. And then you have another candidate saying that. So it's really a broad spectrum, I would say. So it's hard to, you would have to tell me the candidate or the person in specific.
Right.
Yeah. I want to just highlight, what you mentioned before about Dr. Paulo McAllis now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, or it was Mr. McAllis, but
yeah.
I
it's
guess
just McAllis to me, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Special.
So like well, I just want to say that I think one of the arguments against ethnic studies is that there is this dogmatization, right? Like you're getting fed these ideas for you to like just accept and hate America and all the things that Trump is mentioning these days, right? But it really just kind of shows that it teaches you critical thinking, and you can go in different ways depending on where the different influences outside of school also take you, right? But and so that was one case with you, so I think it's important to highlight. But yeah, I think it's what you just mentioned right now, that there's a spectrum, and I mean it makes sense, right? Because even within the Democratic Party, there's the progressive, right, slash socialist slash Marxist slash anarchist that no, I'm just kidding, but yeah, there's like the Bernie Crats, right? I mean, College for all, Medicare for all, jobs for all, justice for all, and then there's like the more to the center Democrats, and similarly I guess with the Republicans. But would you think that that the Libertarian Party is more closely aligned with the Republicans or the Democrats? Because it would seem to me that it would be the Democrats, but Rand Paul, who's I believe the only libertarian, is currently caucusing with the Republicans, and is just following everything that the dude says. Pretty disappointing.
So I do want to make a distinction that a lot of people, I don't think, either know, or most people don't know what libertarian is, but libertarianism is not just the Libertarian Party. It's a political party, but it's also a philosophy. So you don't really have democratism, you don't really have republicanism, you know what I mean? They're conservatives, or they're centrists, or they're progressives, or like you said. So, but
I think there is a conservative philosophy, like
oh yeah, there is a conservative philosophy, but I'm saying they're not the conservative party, they're the Republican Party. So you know what I mean? Libertarians are libertarian and the Libertarian Party.
Right.
But before that, before going back to what you're talking to, I think really, I mean, Rand Paul is tough, because Rand Paul, first of all, he's a Republican. He's a Republican. He's never been a libertarian. He's on video saying he's not a libertarian. He's libertarian leaning. You know what I'm saying? But he has, I think, fought for some good issues. And when Obama was president, but that I came to learn that was all for play. That was all politics, because once Trump won Kentucky crazy, and Rand is right there. He's definitely not his dad. Definitely not his dad, but
for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would say the Libertarians are closer to the Democrat or Republican Party. I think we have views and positions that people from both parties agree on. And that's really all it is. I wouldn't say we're closer to either or, to be honest. I think the conception is, and it's a misconception, that we're closer to the Republican Party and we're basically Republicans that like smoking weed. And that's like smoking weed, but that's the furthest from the truth. We're not Republicans. So
yeah. It just seems like maybe the Libertarians tend to be more, like, say, liberal on social issues, because it comes down to the tenet of individual freedom is the most important tenet. So you should minimize how much you interfere with that. And then, but then when it comes to the economics, it always seemed like maybe they line up more with maybe a right conception of the economy, where it's kind of like laissez-faire capitalism, let the market do whatever it does. I mean, we don't have that today in our capitalism, like a true like free market.
Never had it.
Right. So it's hard to, but I think that's where those ideas come from. And maybe, is that a fair evaluation, you think?
I think like that's, I don't think that's unfair. I'll start by saying that. I don't really think that's unfair. I can definitely see why anybody's coming to that conclusion. You know what I'm saying? And it's not hard for me to come to that conclusion, but I think Republicans are supposed to be the party of conservatism. And if you really look at the way Republicans vote, rhetoric really means nothing. It has an impact on people, I guess, the way they feel, but it's really all about policy. And if you look at the way Republicans vote, they're not very conservative. Like, they're conservative when a Democrat is president, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when Republicans, they go out against everything they campaign for. So, I see why you can come to that conclusion, and it definitely makes sense. I get it. But, another thing, Republicans just supported the bailouts of the airline, all these industries. Libertarians are not for that. The Democrats bailed out all that stuff in 2008, 2009. Libertarians are not for that. So, yeah. So it is definitely a fair evaluation. Makes sense, 100%. But there is some distinction to be made there.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I kind of lean more anarchist, and so there's a lot of affinity there with the Libertarians.
Yeah, right? Definitely. And I wish there was more,
I think, I think anarchists and Libertarians can agree together, and probably more closer than anarchists and Democrats on something.
Probably. I would think so. I guess it just depends if you're on the right of that or the left of that. But
I think it's also important to understand that anarchy it really is a philosophy that means more than what like Trump is positioning it as to be, and it's like these Molotov tossing, like black bloc type folks that are just like like screw no government, like no rules, but like burn everything to the ground, and that's not the case. And that historically that was not the case, and there was a very real conversation in this country or in the world in general about and anarchism was a legitimate even political party, I think. So anyways, but I think what's important, and I think what we're realizing in this conversation, is that there's like a lot of, like, it's like a Venn diagram, right? There's there's a lot of intersection, and then there's ways in which the Libertarian Party intersects with when it comes to the social issues, as Dylan mentioned, with the left-leaning folks. But when it comes to small government, that's definitely a right-wing thing. Slashing taxes, that's definitely a right-wing thing. Pro-gun,
talking point,
like these are different things. Well, and many of that Jo Jorgensen has been expounding.
I want to make a point about that pro-gun. Actually, Marx talked about that. It's a Marxist idea too. There's people on the left that are very pro-gun. The Black Panthers. So I think that's a universal thing.
Or the redneck rebellion. That's like a left-leaning. For sure.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. You get it. So I will say that there's a lot of things. Well, one, I remember when I first heard about libertarianism, I heard it from Ron Paul, the Ron Paul revolution.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is cool.
Oh, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
You heard me. And the wars. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the wars, like,
I'm feeling that.
Legalize it, like all of that, cool. And then all of a sudden, like, the issue of immigration came up, and I was like,
yeah. And no, and I feel that definitely. I used to be pretty conservative, especially when it came to that. And now that I look back on that, Ron Paul's definitely a border hawk. He's not a true he's not a pure libertarian, and I don't know who is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
libertarian.
That's not the libertarian stance. Is close, strong borders is not the libertarian stance. We like free immigration as much as possible. So
that's what I was reading.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I'm sorry.
That's what I was reading from Jo Jorgensen, which was like, refreshing to see that is different from what perhaps Rand Paul, which is what made me kind of be like, no.
Yeah, no, and I definitely understand that. I mean,
I think like you mentioned, you're right. He's different than his father, but those are like the people that come to mind when you think about libertarianism. But also on the local level, somebody who we just had on the show, was it last week? Tom Tate, I believe. Was also, a libertarian, which made a lot of sense when it came down to policies.
I thought he was a Republican.
I mean, he was a libertarian Republican, which
he was great. He was like, he was what like a local, I don't like saying politician, but politician should be, and that's nonpartisan. He just voted what was right. I like that guy. Yeah. So shout out to Tom Tate.
Yeah, huge respect there.
If you see this, call me. Let's make plans.
Yeah. You invest in my business.
Straight up. And you do know that.
One of the good ones, and especially on the local level, it really comes down to special interests and who pulls the strings. So let me just mention that you are endorsing personally Jo Jorgensen.
Yes.
And
Dr. Jo Jorgensen.
So, Dr. Jo Jorgensen. Yeah. So I see the policies, and like, I mean, I like the prison reform to be able to hold police liable for when they kill and maim our communities, which that's not the case now, right?
It's never been.
Individually, or there's a lot of protections for them, a police bill of rights in California, that that hurts our ability to have real reform. It's like how do you I think there was a meme that said like how do I prevent cops from killing me? It's like make them civilly liable to the crimes that they commit when they're found guilty. So that's good. Making illegal a civil asset forfeiture, right? Different things.
That should be illegal.
I mean, being against like the big war machine that has become the the U.S. Foreign policy for years from Democrats and Republicans, right?
Yeah, it doesn't change.
So immigration, she has some really good policies on that, and the list goes on and on. But what was a little troubling to me, and perhaps you'll be able to, and obviously you're yourself and you can't, she can speak for herself and she will. But one of the things was, she was saying, first of all, she's not for Medicare for all. She thinks she's against big government. In that sense, she says that the plans should be similar to there should basically be, to what I hear, it was just like we should fix Obamacare to make it better, more competitive, because it's not competitive right now. And so that was a big interesting, and also around the COVID-19, and the she says that the government should have not come in and stopped commerce and business. People should have been able to continue to work, which to me I feel is reckless and wrong. I'll give you a chance to maybe talk about two things.
So about the healthcare, just to be honest and not to mince words, not only does she not believe, I mean, that's tough. Okay, that slogan already sets us back. Medicare for all. Obviously, everybody thinks everybody should have Medicare. It's about how you get it. And so what she believes, and what libertarians as a general believe, that the government should get out of healthcare. So we obviously have some of the most, if not the most expensive healthcare in the world. And this ties directly really into COVID-19, and we just have to look at how inefficient our healthcare system is. And if you actually look at industries where the government did not get involved versus industries where they did, the industries where the government did not get involved, the prices of those commodities and I know we can go into a whole debate about whether healthcare is a commodity or not, and whether that's right or wrong.
Right.
But those commodities seem to drop in price, including with inflation and all that. And where the government seems to get involved and regulate heavy, the prices of those commodities seem to go up. So she comes from the position, a libertarian position, saying, you know, one, there's a whole discussion about systematic racism, right? And that's a whole different topic. But it's troublesome to think that a government that we are calling inherently racist, that we should put them in charge of our healthcare, and not just in charge of our healthcare, but you have to, you know, look at the VA. Like the VA is horribly ran, sadly. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not just the VA, but just look at the response that we got from COVID. You know, Trump reduced a lot of red lines after months, maybe. And my whole thing is like, if you're repealing, if FDA is repealing all these red lines, if they can be repealed, why were they there in the first place? All they were doing was stopping testing, and delaying this. And so that's more of a, like, you know, why we shouldn't, based on one perspective of it, and another perspective we have as well. Free, obviously, no, there's no such thing. It's going to come out of taxes, you know. Yeah. So we obviously have to raise the taxes. That's just not debatable. You know, the taxes have to go up. Now the question is whether, if you're okay with your taxes going up and getting something in return from the government, and you know, that's a different conversation. But taxes do have to go up, and we obviously are against taxes, so we have to be consistent there. And you also have to ask, when you say free, or you have the right to something, the right to Medicare, it insists that you have the right to somebody's labor, which you don't.
But yeah, I mean, maybe I can push back on that a little bit. Like when you say you've the right to someone's labor, I mean, don't you feel like that we are interdependent on each other for survival? Like if we literally all individually tried to do everything, we wouldn't even have enough time or expertise to do it, right? So, I mean, I do rely on someone to provide food for me, because the way I participate in the economy is like, I'm a software engineer. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like,
and I understand. No, that's, you're 100% right in that. You're right. Individuals can't do it all. You're right.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as, you know, I think everybody should cooperate. That's what the misconception that people have against libertarians, that we think, you know, we only care about ourselves, and we want cooperation in communities. We want, you know, you want people to cooperate and to work towards something together, but we don't want that to be at the through extortion of the government, you know, using the government to extort us. You know what I'm saying? So we're against aggression, period. So if I can't do it to you, the government shouldn't be able to do it to you either. So when they're taking your taxes for these things, what they're essentially saying is, you know, obviously it's under the guise of a social contract, which is something nobody ever consents to or signs.
Right.
But you're basically saying, the government is saying, you know, I own your paycheck, and I'm going to decide how much you can keep, and the rest of it I'm going to use. And who knows we know what they use it on, and a lot of it's, you know, not good stuff. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
They're spending over $50,000 on cups last year in the military, like our tax dollars. You know what I'm saying? So. And people will tell me, well, if we could at least track our tax dollars, or would you be more okay with that? That still goes against the idea that the government doesn't have the right to steal from you. Just like you don't have the right to steal from someone else, because if you do, you go to jail. So, you know, that's kind of, yeah, that's that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
a lot there, I know.
Yeah, there's that argument about like how, oh, you know, the government doesn't have the right to steal from me. It's like, and you know, I think one thing that the libertarians and anarchists probably agree on a lot is either the suspicion of authority, or like that it needs to be questioned. But it leads me to like this scenario, like you were talking about how like the government shouldn't be able to do anything to you that another individual couldn't. But like, say in the circumstance where someone, you know, everyone's a libertarian, and we all agree philosophically that I'm not gonna be aggressive towards you, and I won't harm or steal from you. But someone will, right? Eventually, someone will, and they'll say, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it." But then how do you, because now it's a quarrel between the two individuals where they both deny it happening. How do you resolve the problem without something like government? Like, I feel like that's almost like the first step to government, because it's like, well, we need to figure out how do we resolve these conflicts as a community. You know, does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no, I feel that 100%. But that's one thing, again, I want to say that probably 99% of libertarians don't think we shouldn't have no government. Don't think that we shouldn't, that almost 99% of libertarians will say that is the role of government, is to come in when something like that, like your rights are infringed upon. So whether that's the taking of your property, the damage of your property, or somebody infringing on your personal rights, or you know, as a life. So we do believe, most libertarians believe, I'm a little more extreme, but most libertarians believe that that's a purpose for government. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, this is something I forgot. I want to go back to it, but it's more philosophical. It's like going back to that idea of like, I mean, at least anarchists try to prevent any needless coercive, being forced into something, right? As much as possible. But like for me, the philosophical problem is that we're all here none of us chose to be born. And none of us chose to be born here together and have to share, like we literally have to share space. So it's like there are these fundamental facts about reality that have coerced us outside of our own will to not only exist, but to share space. So that's where I feel like the origin of the necessity of government comes from. Or no, I mean, that's just the word government. It means people making agreements.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I just, like I said, the libertarians are mostly going to tell you that you can do all that without, you know, we can voluntarily share spaces without the need for government, because at the end of the day, we're against force, and all government is force. At the end of the day, we fund government and it extorts us. The government can do anything it wants to you that a private citizen can't. You know what I'm saying? That a private citizen will get in trouble for, go to jail for, do long years. The government can do it for you. And if you look over history, you know, there's been a lot of evil governments, whether it was Nazi Germany, anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think one thing libertarians, like you mentioned earlier, that we're suspicious of authority, and we really are, because when you look at history, the main killer of humans, of almost just, you know what I'm saying, of mankind, has been government. Whether it was right government or left government, they're killing people. You know what I'm saying? And whether it was real capitalism, real socialism, real this and real that, it doesn't matter. It was government that killed these people at the end of the day, because government is just force. You know, in my opinion, the government exists to coerce you. That's the only purpose of government, to coerce you and limit your rights.
Yeah.
Sadly.
But like on a philosophical level, or as implemented?
I think both. I think I mean, you look at the United States government, you know what I'm saying? And really, the most we can really talk to is where we live. We can read about other places and, you know, this and that and this. You can visit other places, but really the most you can talk about, the most you can relate to, the most you can understand is where you live. You know what I'm saying? And I'll come out and say right now, I think the United States government is the most violent, the most corrupt, and probably the largest terrorist organization to ever exist in the world. And we also have a lot of perks, I think. But just on that, you know what I'm saying? Just on that, just watching our government do it. And obviously it's not, you know, just because our government is doing it doesn't mean other governments are doing it. Well, show me a government that doesn't use some kind of force on its citizens. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole idea behind government, is force. It's to coerce.
Well, then maybe just one more question. I'll let Joe say you get back in here. But just one thing I'm interested in is just like I'm not totally against the idea of reducing the size of government, but like the question for me is like, what would be the appropriate size of government, and what level would it exist at? And the ones that seem like they have a chance of having people be able to check because like for me the problem with government is that tribalistic political groups take over, and then they do whatever they want for their own benefit and the benefit of their donors, right? But like, I just feel like the closer the government is to the ground, to the people, the easier it is for the people to see them, and the more engaged those people are in their government. Like say most government was actually local government, and we can all freaking see them doing all the stuff. We're like, no, because like I'm involved in my city and I'm aware of what's happening, and you're out on the next cycle, however they organize, right? Like, so like, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is like, that moment I talked about when two people have a conflict and they need the group, some bigger thing to resolve the conflict on their behalf, like the society like a jury has to come in, the village itself has to come in and say, oh, I think Dave was wrong in this situation based on the evidence, because the individuals themselves can't resolve the conflict. I mean, is that government? And but that's necessary, is it kind of what I'm saying?
Is it necessary?
Well, how else would he resolve the conflict, I guess?
I guess it just once again goes back to what is the conflict? Did you hurt me? Did you take my stuff? Did you, you know what I'm saying? Then sure. I do believe that's a role of government.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's a good thing, because that's like, at least we know one of the things it should do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an anarchist, I'm not an anarchist. So I'm a libertarian, and she's not an anarchist. I'm probably more extreme in my views than she is. But yeah.
But I mean, I'd even say anarchists tend to be even more collective than libertarians, right? Way more.
Well, definitely. Typically. Yeah, I mean, libertarians are not collectivists. And I think it just depends there are two sides. I mean, there's a lot, but I think typically two sides of anarchism. You have the red circle and star or whatever it is on the yellow side. You have the anarcho-capitalist and anarcho-communist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
sure.
It all, it's such an umbrella. I just don't like to generalize.
Oh, I know. And even anarchists come from the libertarian tradition. If you trace the word back in history and stuff. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, Jose, I'll stop. Ooh, I get to jump in.
Well, we've run out of time here today. that was a good conversation, Dylan, Matt. No, Matt. So I think there's a difference between like theory and practice. I think it's an important thing that to me is clear from from hearing y'all too. I think by and large, I think I even myself, I would like to believe in the idea of small government, just like I would like to believe in the idea that we don't need guns, and we could live in a society where we wouldn't need guns, because everybody would just take their daily dose of act right, and and we wouldn't be shooting each other up for different things. But I'm a history major. I studied history, and everything that I've learned in history is that we have been a violent freaking society since the beginning of time, since beginning, where it was like Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, and the Homo sapiens were like, those dudes, they gotta go, because because they're different than us. They're gonna come over here and gonna try to take our women away, and really and they're gonna take our water, take our and so hence slowly but surely society coming up with these ideas of organized societies that created the ruling class and the working class, and then poor people were there, and then there and the artisans, and it just got more and more complicated. So I would say that government wasn't perhaps intrinsically part of the equation. It just became a necessity, and that necessity has not gone away. And really, my biggest argument for big government is to protect its citizens from what is the biggest threat to it now, is big corporations that do not give a shit about people. And so they'll continue to whether it's the big corporation that is the military industrial complex that feeds it to our foreign policy, but also into our localized militarized policing that kill and maim. But there is no ability for people to really fight back against that, other than voting. And so there is a lot. Jo Jorgensen mentions that she's the Republicans and the Democrats, they're both going to be the same on big war, and really two sides of the same coin. I would disagree and say that they're on a lot of other issues it's not, but on war I would agree. I mean, Obama gave us drones, and so that was terrible. But what I was going to mention is there's just a lot of ideas where I'm just no, eliminating the Department of Education, as she mentioned. We have a Department of Education so that it protects, students, and being able, from predatory lending from all these big corporations that, will give them, these fake diplomas that they can't do shit with, or now, they become these little ability, these cash cows for these corporations that, you know, are benefiting off of their debt. A whole generation is. Healthcare ideally would be one where people would, you know, have to pay, would not pay so much. But again, corporations are just wreaking havoc on our ability to have it. So yeah, when people say it doesn't have to be Medicare, expanding Medicare, medical, it just needs to be universal healthcare, meaning like you can have a doctor that you can go to, you don't die, and you don't, and most importantly, you don't fall into debt because you get sick. But I mean, Department of Education things especially troubling because uh, right now there's a battle between charter schools and public schools. So then how do we figure that out if we do away with it? And the last thing I'll mention is like environmental issues. So she's for more nuclear energy. You know, she mentions France being 75% nuclear. We haven't had any in 30 years. So she's saying like no subsidies for anybody for, well, no Green New Deal, because we need a roadmap, not mandates. And I'm like, Green New Deal is not a mandate. It's a set of suggestions to get us towards a certain place. So it's like, I'm like, I like that idea, but I don't like how you know, the next idea that you bring forth. And I find myself constantly doing that. So yeah, that's me.
Well, I do want to go back and because you pointed out that about Republicans and Democrats being the same. And then you said you do believe that to be true on the issue of war.
Yeah.
And I think it's important not to just dismiss that, because at the end of the day, war is the deadliest issue of all. You know, more people, more children, more men and more women are affected by war each and every day than anything else. You know what I'm saying? And we have such a privilege of being in the United States and arguing with each other whether we're going to vote for Trump or for Biden, when in reality we don't understand what either of those mean for the kids in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? Overseas, like, so we do have to recognize that that's not really an issue to just brush off. But and you know, obviously Joe is anti-war, libertarians are anti-aggression, so by nature we're anti-war. We do, you know what I'm saying? But that I think that's just such an important issue that doesn't get talked about in the United States, because we have the privilege, and we've always had the privilege of never experiencing it on our land, besides, you know, Pearl Harbor and 9/11. And look, it's been how many years, and every year we celebrate that stuff. When in reality, because of Democrats and because of Republicans, the kids in the Middle East experience that every single day.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not brushed off. And, you know, recall that I was a Bernie-crat. I am a Bernie-crat. And so, you know, like the military industrial complex is a thing. And which is why I felt that Bernie was a better candidate than Biden, because, you know, it's part of the whole thing where you have these big corporations like Boeing and, you know, like Smith & Wesson and Raytheon and all these, you know, that are feeding the war machine, you know, that is destroying lives and of people all over the world, suppressing freedom of speech, you know, like made in USA, tear bombs, you know, tear gas, like rubber bullets, like, you know, so it kind of just makes it a situation where like, wow, the United States would be in a lot more trouble economically if it weren't for the fact that we are funding so much of, you know, the war machine that is a worldwide phenomenon. But I would say if it wasn't the United States, it would be somebody else, because I think, you know, part of our society is just constantly being in conflict with each other. So it's not even a thing of like government created this. It's like government is, you know, a benefactor of greedy individuals who get into positions of power, you know, because they amass money and wealth. That has been going on since the time.
Exactly, which is why we should limit government power so that they're not, you know, attracted to it.
We're not going to limit government power, because there's always going to be rich people that are going to have their way and be able to buy influence and bribe their way towards eliminating our individual personal freedom. You know what I mean? Like government is up in its worst way is facilitating these greedy fucks. But in the best of times, it would be saving and protecting us from these people. But that's a choice, and we clearly have made the wrong choices now. But I personally think that like voting Green or voting Libertarian is in the time when we don't, like, the debates don't allow for a third or fourth or fifth, you know, or all the other parties to come in, is a waste of a vote. You know, it does not intrinsically, but because of the fact that
hopefully I can get into that.
yeah. I mean, I think this is like that. This is the kind of maybe like the zinger that I want to end the show with, is like, you know, why folks feel it, you know, important to vote their conscience, which Like I think in California, it's a blue state, like, you know, green away, libertarian away, but in other states, it's going to be tough for me to rationalize of not voting.
Yeah, well, I think for one, you did just mention it in the beginning. You didn't, but you did just mention that we're in California. It's blue, so I think it's important to realize one, where you are. We're in California. Biden will win regardless. So when you vote Libertarian, what you do is you help us become a major party, and when we become a major party, there's no longer a two-party system. You know what I'm saying? And it paves the way for the Greens. Or if you vote for the Greens, you help them turn into a major party. You know, Democrats were always paraded around about democracy. And they tried to sue the Green Party in Texas to get them off the ballots. They just kicked them off the ballots in Pennsylvania. You know what I'm saying? When progressives or when the Greens are the ones that are really presenting another choice to progressives. If you're a Bernie bro, that's who you should be voting for. And my whole thing with this wasted vote, I don't think there's anything wasted in not voting for somebody, for two men who have they're sexual predators. I think there's absolutely no justification in voting for that at all. I think it's extremely interesting that we had so many people for so long talking about believe women, believe women, believe women. I'm with her. Yes, me too. And we're out here. I mean, think about the fact that we spent all summer, and I was there. I went to a lot, you know what I'm saying? Marching in the streets against police brutality, because it's a real problem in this country. Okay. Think about the fact that probably more than half of the people in these crowds look to Democrats like they're going to, you know, like that's their symbol of hope right there, because you have Bernie, because of people like AOC. And so after all of that, after all those marches of all those cries for help against the police, what do the Democrats do? They nominate Kamala Harris, a dirty cop, and Joe Biden, the man that wrote the 1994 crime bill that has incarcerated so many men. Because probably, I'm almost positive, because of that bill, 2 out of 3 black men will experience the criminal justice system in their life. There's absolutely no justification in voting for him or for Trump, for that matter, just because we might get something out of it at the end. They're criminals, and that's what they are. And I think we have to also realize who we are. Me telling people to vote Libertarian, I'm affecting maybe 20 people at the most. You telling people to vote Green, you're probably going to affect 100 people at the most. We're not MLK. We're not Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that much of influence. Our influence is here in California. And I think that's why we should be definitely, I mean, I think anywhere, but you should definitely be encouraging folks to vote their conscience, because it helps progress. It really does. And progress, you know, perfect is not the enemy of bad. And in this case, Biden nor Trump are good. There's no good there. None. One has Joe Biden has been in the government for 47 years. All of a sudden, he's going to fix our problems. All of a sudden, he's going to give us something that we want. You know what I'm saying? He's taking police money. That's a deal breaker.
Yeah, Dylan, you take police money, like, don't endorse these candidates. Anyways, busted, dude. Yeah, listen, like, you're preaching to the choir as far as like why, you know, these people are not the best, to put it lightly. I always bring it back to this, man. We're mitigating our impact. We're mitigating harm. And I don't agree with the notion that you're legitimizing or you're voting for these things when you vote for the, you know, like these candidates. I mean,
would you extend that to Trump voters? Do you not think that?
Exactly. No, that was exactly what I was going to say right now. I think legitimately a lot of Republicans are saying, you know what, I don't like this dude. I think, like, not a good Christian, to say the least. But you know what, like, I like the idea of having now potentially 3 Supreme Court justices that are conservative leaning that will get what I think is a very important issue, which is, you know, to eliminate Roe v. Wade, because I hate the idea of babies being killed. Right? Like, I get that. And so when it comes to the left, then, I mean, you know, I've you know, women are just, you know, really, you know, and you mentioned, like, and I'll say, like, yeah, there is an issue with the politicization around women's rights and what that is, and who gets to, you know, to have that accountability and who doesn't. You know, Bill Clinton comes to mind, right? And so, you know, so definitely that is a legitimate issue that needs to be worked out. You know, but what's more important is, like, again, mitigating impact. You know, immigrant communities have had terrible trauma with Trump in the last, you know, 3 years. that they had it during Obama
exactly.
too. And
The
so
border in chief.
I personally am always going to like say
And
like
Joe Biden was his VP.
right. You know, they laid down the infrastructure for what then Trump came and
They built the cages.
expounded and made so much worse. So I'm not saying that the Democrats are like, you know, like they can wash their hands and say and claim this
I get what you're
moral
saying.
superiority. They can't, and on so many issues, you know. I mean, Michael Moore recently came out with his documentary Planet of the Apes, right, or something like that, where he basically says, you people on the green like side, you know, like the green energy, you are almost as bad as the oil people because you're not really trying to help the government. You're just trying to enrich yourself, which is the same thing I would say about people like talking about affordable housing. It's, you know, it's a scheme, it's a game, and it just makes people feel good. It's like, I support affordable housing, but like, what does that really mean? And is it truly affordable? But anyways, so all to say that like I totally I give nod, and I think you're right on to call these things out, but I just would go again and say that people are just trying to mitigate damage. Muslim people, women, immigrants, and you know the communities that are feeling the brunt of a Trump presidency. We won't have the USPS eliminated, you know, like, and the list goes on and on as far as the horrible things that Trump has done in 3 years that he would only double down on in another 4.
Can I respond to that? All right. So you mentioned you're trying to mitigate the impact for Muslims and for immigrants and I don't know who else, women and these minority groups, right? So under Obama, Joe Biden says VP, we dropped more bombs over 7 Muslim majority countries than we ever have in history. Over 100,000 in 8 years. That's 100,000 in 1 year, just 26,000 in 2016 alone. And so how can my whole thing is consistency? You know what I'm saying? We can't be out here saying, well, this person's gonna do better by this community when they were in power, when they were the right-hand man to the president. That administration deported more people than anyone in history, built these cages. They dropped more bombs than anybody in history on people that are innocent people. You know what I'm saying? And throughout 8 or 7 different Muslim majority countries. The only difference is the media covered one and the media didn't cover the other and make it such a big deal. So, you know what I'm saying?
Black people would say the same thing about, Obama's lack of a black agenda. It's like,
exactly.
Did not do enough.
And realistically, when nobody is really that much worse or that much better off under Trump than we were, Obama, nothing's really changed.
I would disagree. I think, the department, the education person, the one that was there, like literally this man, a Stephen Miller, he is one of the worst, most evilest people that said absolutely under no excuse, like no excuses, no exceptions, enforce the law, separate these kids from their families. And, Obama was doing it too, but not to the level that this guy's doing it.
Yeah.
Another
still wrong. Both still wrong.
It's still wrong.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about like the greater good. We're talking about the lesser evil. And I think that is an important thing. It's a shitty thing, man. But I would argue 90% of politics is a lesser evil game. We're playing defense. We're not playing offense.
And
problem.
I think
the problem, but it is the way that we were born. We didn't make this world, like the world was this fucked up when we got here.
My whole thing is, you're right. I think politics is really a lesser of the two evils. And I think it's because we've been voting for Republicans and Democrats for the last 100-something years, thinking like they care about us. It's the same thing every year. That's why we've been voting for the rest of the two evils our whole life. And look where it's got us. It's not getting us nowhere.
That's not a good look. And especially because the margin of error between because the weird thing about Trump is like he's awful. And obviously just mentioned a bunch of stuff and his cabinet is horrible. But I do wonder though, like, has there been more of an awakening because he's so terrible that, did we get more? A lot of the social justice movements now were bolstered by the opposition to his presidency. And then it's murky. And I know all these people like Noam Chomsky are like, you have to vote for Biden and stuff because objectively it'll be better. But it's like, I don't know. I think the margin of error is close on this one, and it's hard. So, to tell someone don't vote your heart, don't vote for what you believe in and support a party that you believe in, it's hard to say that.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I will mention that. Remember Obama? Immigrant youth constantly said like you can do an executive order to to protect immigrant students here, and for a long time he said no. It's like no, I don't have the power to do it. Blah blah blah. They protested him. They shouted him down. Like they did so much stuff,
Yeah.
and we got DACA thanks to that. We would have never had that opportunity with a Republican in office, like like in this time. We could talk about what amnesty was during Reagan, and that was a one-shot time. It's like, okay, we'll give it to you one time, and that's it, okay? But like this is gonna fix all our problems. But it's the reality is the way that things are polarized and divided now, and how the Republican Party has doubled down on their anti-immigrant and xenophobic rhetoric. It's just really we would have never had a chance to even have the ability to have the chance to have DACA as we do now. And what did Trump do? He tried to eliminate it until the government told him like you can't do that. So that's just one example of many. Like thousands of people have benefited from DACA. And again, it wasn't because of Obama. It was because the people, undocumented youth, activists that chained themselves to fucking streets and fought, for their ability to stay with their families, for their parents to not be deported. Like they were able to fucking do that,
Yeah.
And so like, this issue, I'm formerly undocumented. This issue matters deeply to me. I literally had a dream last night about being in an immigration detention center. Like, it kills me to know that like women are getting hysterectomies, and that was not happening under Obama. A lot of fucked up shit was happening under Obama, but not this shit, So this is a higher level of evil, and
I just think evil is evil. So
no, there's levels of evil.
my whole thing is like we need to stop. Like I think
murder, and then there's like strangulation and torture, and then you get killed.
I mean, you're still a murderer.
It's different.
One's sick for sure. I mean, they're both sick, but one's
there's things.
There is a level. You're right. There's a level, but my whole thing is we need to stop looking at politicians like they're just some people that happen to put in place legislation that we agree with and sometimes we don't agree with. When you look at Joe Biden or Donald Trump, all you have to look at is the fact that they have killed so many innocents in the Middle East. That's it. Off the bat, they're murderers. I just personally cannot look at somebody in the eye and tell them and give them. We'll say, well, Joe Biden might give us this if we pressure him enough. So that we'll ignore that, or we'll brush that off, or maybe we'll protest that here and there, which it never does get protested, especially when it's a Democratic president. But that's just not right. You know what I'm saying? And we have to really stand back and look at our privilege as Americans. Like I said earlier, that we can have this discussion where, well, there's levels to evil, and maybe Biden didn't drop as many bombs as Trump. Maybe Biden isn't going to deport as many people as Trump did. Like that's still evil. And I understand this is realistic. This is real life. But I think continuing that type of rhetoric is what continues the actions, is what allows us to continue, because people will often say, well, yeah, that's life. And, we just have to little bit by little bit, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think, Matt, we agree on much more things that we disagree with.
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
And
for sure.
I disagree with that.
I disagree.
And I think most libertarians and left disagree on a lot of things. We just disagree on how to get to the solution.
Exactly. That
you know what I'm saying?
Right, man. So
for sure.
Like I think obviously, like I'm passionate, you're passionate. We're passionate about change and about helping our communities, and and I see your posts, and talking against police brutality and these things. I'm always like, yeah, like absolutely, and so many other things, but I just I guess like it really comes down to like how do we get to where we want to get to based on where we are right now, and where we are right now, in my opinion, is a place where corporations like the mainstream media control who the American people get to like see as far as their candidates. They
definitely do
blue and the red and nothing else, and that's not how it is in Mexico, and that's not how it is in other parts of
most parts of the world.
So like it shouldn't be like that, but until we change that, like the third party is just going to have a very difficult chance, especially when they don't allow them to be on the ballot in every state. So there's a lot of work to do, I think. we should definitely think and believe and work towards a world outside of duopoly. But until we get there, we just have to do what we can with what we have. And I know that there's
And
good people that are Democrats that believe
mm,
that they're doing the best that they can, and they're not legitimizing these leaders at the top, and
mm,
they're kind of trying to figure out what the long game is
yeah.
when it comes to change. So I think that's important to mention. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like
I would
murder,
like to point out
bombs,
something though.
and don't drink the Kool-Aid from either side.
No, don't.
I think what we both agree on.
Yeah, I would like to point out really quick though that Jo Jorgensen is on all 50 state ballots plus DC. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we secured all 50 states ballot access, so every American will have the opportunity to vote for Jo Jorgensen. And when you do vote third party, whether it's Green or Libertarian, I think progressives should break away from the Democratic Party and go to the Green Party. Vote your principles. But what you do help, that is how you break the duopoly, because the more votes that party gets, the higher chance they will become a major party, recognized as a major party. Right now, they're minor party. So that is literally how you break the duopoly, is by voting for third parties. So God bless.
I would agree, and I would just propose that third parties should win local races. They should win school board.
And yeah, and a lot of them run. The Greens and Libertarians run a lot of locals.
I always go towards the big prize that is so like you're shooting for the moon and you don't even have a rocket. Like like you have
that's true. But
over the hill if you climb there.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But we do run a lot of local races. Libertarians and Greens do. They just don't get the press that most people get.
Yeah. Do they, Dylan?
So yeah, I mean, we run the whole ticket, from all the way from school boards to presidents. Obviously the only one everybody hears about is the president because they're running for president, and we're the third largest political party in America. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a Green win Richmond, the city of Richmond, years ago, and they made some news. They were using like eminent domain to take houses from banks and give them to families that needed homes.
That woman, right? What's her name?
Yeah, it's eluding me right now, but if chat remembers, McLaughlin, Gail McLaughlin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Something like that.
Yeah, not to be confused with
And by the way, they ran not as a tribal political party, but as a slate based on values with people from all different political parties in it. So I'm totally for that too. I'm for like coalitions of grassroots. Like Libertarians and Greens should work together. There's so much in common, like the solidarity there. I just feel like we're going to win better with coalition. Go ahead.
I agree. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, we do have to wrap up, Matt, but I want to give you, the final word here. I want to definitely thank you for being on. This has been really cool conversation, and I learned a lot, and hopefully our viewers did as well. But take it away, sir.
All right. Well, before everybody goes, I want to remind everybody that Jo Jorgensen is on the ballot in all 50 states. Mm-hmm. All 50 states. Go to jo20.com. jo20.com to look at more of her stances. And yeah, that's just about it. And maybe you can look into libertarianism. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of misconceptions. Hopefully I opened, maybe some things for you. And we didn't get to it, but abolish the police. And that's it.
Damn.
Woo! Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm with the abolish ICE movement for sure.
Abolish ICE too, especially after, I don't know how this hysterectomy story isn't more talked about. It's the most disgusting thing I've seen probably this year. It's horrible. Horrible.
It breaks my heart. It really does. Just to think about all the tragedies that happened. But we fight, brother. And
yes, sir.
We fight for the rights of those that are killed by the police, and and don't not get the accountability that we need, and fight for our immigrant families, and we fight for the rights of individuals, right, against the government that should do right by its people but so often does not, right, and sides with people that are harming it. So I hope and I pray that we're able to fix this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do,
level,
oh yeah,
right?
Big time.
Yeah. All right. Woo! Well, thank you so much, Matthew Mariscal, for being on the show tonight, and super good to continue to stay in touch with you, and so we'll be continuing to stay in tune with all the things that
Yeah.
sharing and stuff. And
I'm sure you'd be
riling
getting
up
heated
people.
over there. I know I'd be getting people heated. But you know,
There you
somebody
go.
got to do it.
That's
Somebody
the
gotta do
work.
it.
Yep.
Yes, sir. All right, bro. Well, thanks for having me on. For real, for real.
Yeah, great to meet you.
All right, bro.
Peace, man.
Peace. Oh yeah, we should do the political debate episode more.
Yeah, no, I think this was great. I did get a little emotional in that moment, but you know, I didn't get disrespectful.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, I guess I don't know. Sometimes we do underplay the benefits that Obama administration had. So, point there, definitely.
You know, it's hard. It's really hard to have this conversation because I mean, like it's like I agree with you, but right, it's like I agree with like almost everything that you're saying, but still, like I'm gonna ask you to support this person because this is what what I think. I think we're mitigating damage and and potentially allowing our chance to stack the courts with Supreme Court nominees that are not going to be against women's rights and against other things that I care deeply about. Immigrant rights, I mean, voting rights, the list goes on, man. Like the way that the Republicans have tried to gut and have gutted voting rights legislations and how they continue to try to say which is what I always say against a lot of anarchists who I feel are always like, why vote? You're legitimizing this messed up process. It's like, again, we did not create this system. We are born into this system. You're not legitimizing. You are trying to lessen like the
mitigation. Yeah,
mitigation. If we are playing defense here, nobody's fooling anybody into thinking that we're doing anything more than that, or at least not me. Some people will drink the Kool-Aid and be like, yeah, blue, yeah, red. And I'm like, no, I like, show me the money, show me the receipts, show me the issues. And I'll get excited about stuff. But, yeah, I'm just so tired of hearing this dude speak and just lie and lie and lie and lie. It's emotionally overwhelming. But so what's going to be emotionally overwhelming, regardless of who wins, will be the election. And what everybody's saying is that we will not know who won the election on election day. So every day that goes by where the numbers are shifting, and it's going to be more and more opportunity for people to grow very weary and distrustful of their government. And as we've seen in recent months, gun sales are crazy, skyrocketing across the nation. People on the left and the right, and a lot of black people are getting, becoming, like strapping up, like, because who knows what's going to happen. And I worry, regardless of who wins, that we're going to see violence in this country. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I just,
it has been. I mean, it's been boiling over.
We saw this guy, like that drove to go see violence, get action. Anytime that there's a protest now, these people are looking for, to protect property and really, potentially like shoot people with, at the very least, paintball guns, and at worst with live bullets. But I mean, I don't want people to die from any side. I don't want police to die. Like I want people to live, and I want to live in a peaceful society. But this is just kind of what we're finding ourselves like. Like it's like you're on one of those like I can't think of it. Anyways, yeah, like we're seeing the headlights. We're going right towards it, and you can't turn. We're just gonna
locked in.
Yeah, locked in, and hopefully we fly into like a patch of grass, and that saves us. But we're going to hit. We're going to impact.
Yeah, I didn't even realize how quickly this is coming. November 3rd is coming. So
crazy.
And just as an aside note about the forums that were run in the past couple weeks here in Santa Ana, like, did you see that?
The what?
Did you see Mark Lopez at the mayoral debate?
Oh snap! That was too funny.
Oh
man.
my god! I'm expecting that like some of these clips to wind up on a cringe compilation on the YouTube somewhere, like because man, that was bad. But I'm kind of pissed off about that. But I think if people thought it was funny and if that somehow draws more people into listening to the forums, I guess it's okay. But yeah. Anyway, that was a whole drama.
Dude, that made my night, like straight up. I mean,
Yeah.
it was obvious that Sarmiento, in my opinion, and a lot of people's on the comment section, that he was the most consistent, the most clear on the policies, and not dancing around the issues and being wishy-washy. So, we're not, eluding attacks against others, and not like eating, like snacking on sandwiches or whatever.
What was he eating?
Mark Lopez.
I couldn't tell.
I'm pretty sure he was eating, first of all, and I'm sure he was drinking a beer too.
That's good.
He had his hat on, like he was just chilling. I was like, all right, yeah, I got some free time. Let me jump this thing here.
You know what I don't get, and it's just like
Mark, are you there? Mark,
hello.
Oh, okay, we're gonna skip Mark.
Mark has left the building.
Yeah, it's like, can we just perpetually like skip Mark?
Next? Yeah, but like just what's fascinating to me is this like we provided a lot of support and like willingness to help all the candidates with their Zoom and everything, and it's like you bother run for mayor, but then you don't spend 10 minutes getting your computer set up before you're going to present yourself in front of tens of thousands of people. You're instead not going to test anything beforehand, and he was a weird he was doing a phone plus the computer setup, and then his phone died or something midway, like during the event, and you could see him running around in the background. It's just like, come on, man. If you're gonna put yourself out there in front of tens of thousands of people, like invest 15 minutes in like getting a light on your face for the Zoom camera. Make sure it works.
Yeah. Combing your hair, maybe putting on a polo, go crazy. Business casual.
Something
at least.
Maybe that's his way. That's his personality. But anyway. So that I hope that found the residents of the city found that amusing.
Yeah, I did not. I was. Anyways, like it sucked that there was technical difficulties with Norberto, but great job, Dylan Thompson, stepping in. Boy, you made your fellow co-host proud.
Yeah,
I just wanted to hear Dylan's second voice, sounding like Zordon and shit from the background.
Hello,
Ranger.
What is your response to this question? Yeah. I didn't expect to have to do that, but it happened. And if only I had the pass back was more smooth, it would have been perfect. But I was like, oh no, Berto's here. Okay, you take over now.
No, just taking it the whole time.
Yeah, it's good times.
But yeah, good times. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are hemorrhaging viewers as we speak. So for all 8 of you that are still watching, one of them being me, one of them being Edgar,
4 of them being me, and
another one being Dylan. So I think
some Russian bots I hired.
Yeah, we did get up to 30 viewers. So folks, watch it later. Please, hopefully, people follow, share this video. Had a good conversation with brother Matt Mariscal. And so the conversations continue.
Oh yeah, that was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too. So good times. Shout out to all the people that commented and were tuning in and stuff. So have a shot at 12 for yours truly. Helping into the twilight years of his life. So thank audio video engineer Edgar Silva for being awesome. Iron Lion Media Studio. Hit us up for your podcasting opportunities. You can also follow us on Spotify, YouTube, OnlyFans on Instagram, where you can see exclusive sexy pictures from Dylan Thompson.
Sexy pictures of this white meat. Oh yeah. Look how pasty that is.
No.
It's almost like reflecting light back.
No one wants to see that. Absolutely.
Not that was hurtful.
Well, I mean, someone wants to see that, obviously.
Thanks, Jose. I'm glad that you could admit that for yourself.
Your partner and your cats, perhaps. And
I'd be curious about if my cat were interested in that. I'd be very disturbed.
All right. So yeah, stay safe, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Mask, social distance,
and God bless our engineer.
And God bless
who
our engineer
is amazing. Yes.
So from Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us and It's Happening family, we are signing off.
It's happening. Oh, that was the weirdest one we've ever done.
Para no ver lo que es verdad, te han engañado, no es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar, ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores, hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capitalista.